I love leftover soup. Hey, welcome to DittDott. My name is Amanda, and I'm sure at some point you'll probably see my dog Watson scampering around underfoot. Today I am making a clean out your pantry and fridge beef and vegetable soup. So I'm gonna gear this particular video more towards the beginner cook because I feel like a soup recipe is a great place for a new cook to start. A good beef and vegetable soup is extremely hard to mess up. You don't need to measure, and there's just some little key things that will make your soup work. But even if you aren't a beginner, stick around and I hope you enjoy this video. See how I like to throw together a yummy soup any time of the year because it's summer here, but I eat soup all the time. All right, so there are probably a bazillion ways to make a soup. This is just one method. All right, so I'm gonna start off next to my skillet. I put in a little bit of olive oil. Again, don't measure, you wanna just put a little bit down at the bottom of the pot. And I'm going to start with an onion. So hopefully, let's see, get this way you can see my cutting board. So this is a yellow onion. You can use a white onion, you know, whatever you want. I'm going to cut off both ends. And I like to have what I call my garbage or your compost bowl right next to where you're working. These little narrow onions can be tricky, so be careful. Cut it in half. And then you can just peel off the outer layer of skin. So this particular recipe, what I call my clean out my pantry and refrigerator recipe, is good because it takes vegetables that are maybe not exactly happy. So like this potato is kind of wrinkly. It's not the prettiest potato. And you can see this onion has a soft spot in it. So I'm going to pry apart these layers and just remove this one. It's not actually rotten, but it's just kind of brown and soft, and I don't want to eat that. So I'm going to throw that part away. So we're taking vegetables that are, you know, past their prime and being able to use them up. So I'm going to chop it one way, turn it, and then dice it the other way. I've got my pot on low because right now there's nothing in it but the oil, and I don't want the oil to overheat. You could also start it after you get your onion chopped up because it's the first thing that's going in. Okay, the only important thing is to try to get small pieces. You want to think about what's on your spoon and make them uniform. So we're going to hear a nice sizzle. That was loud because my oil is hot. And just coating them in the oil and getting that started. Next for my potato. So I'm going to go ahead and peel this potato. You don't have to peel the potato, but one reason why I want to is because, like I said, this is not the prettiest potato in the pantry, and I want to see if there's black spots that I can peel off. Okay, so this potato is actually rotten. So I am actually not going to use this guy. Sometimes you can't tell until you start cutting into them. So we're going to say goodbye to this one. Let me grab a different potato. Luckily, I did have another one, and this one is actually still in better condition, but I'm still gonna go ahead and peel it. And see, it's got some gnarly black spots too. I think I bought these. I was gonna make homemade French fries one day and then decided not to. And then, so they've just been sitting in the pantry for too long and just need to be used up. I do like to keep my potatoes and my onions in the pantry. There's another big black spot. I keep them in the pantry and I keep them separate from each other because potatoes and onions produce off gases that will actually make each other ripen faster. So you want to keep them apart from each other, but they do like cool, dark spaces. And I think that was one of the problems. My pantry doesn't have a vent in there, and I think with our heat wave that we had a couple weeks ago, the pantry got too hot and a couple things did go bad in my pantry. So on the second day of the heat wave, when I realized that, I opened up the door of the pantry and just left the pantry door open. I live in the Pacific Northwest, and we had temperatures like in the 115 range, and that's not normal for up here. So I'm gonna toss in, so we have the onions, and now we've got some potato, and then we're gonna get in some other vegetables. So again, I just like to cook next to the stove, cook as I go. One good thing about this soup is that you can use almost any vegetable that you've got kicking around. Probably not any vegetable, but you know, all the basics. So I have a half of a zucchini that was left over from a different dish and a carrot. So I'm gonna add these to the pot. And then I've got just the inside bit of some celery left over. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the leaves and all. Some of these leaves, oh, actually there's some sand in here, so I'm gonna give these a quick rinse. Okay, there were some that were a little brown too, so I went ahead and pulled off all the brown ones. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put the leaves and everything into the skillet. So just give them a rough chop. The key thing again is to keep everything small and about the same size. All right, you get this in and we're gonna stir it around and I'll show you what it's looking like so far. So right now I've still got it on low. We'll turn the heat up in a little bit. So our vegetables are still just kind of cooking down, nothing special yet. You go ahead and add some salt. That'll help the vegetables start to break down faster. And it's kind of good to season as you go. I'll go ahead and add a little pepper right now too, and we'll add some more seasonings later. Go ahead and turn up the heat here. And I've got some broccoli. Broccoli would be good in here too. I've got some garlic that I'm going to add. If you've got some garlic that's kind of stubborn, if you put it on your cutting board and kind of smush it down with the side of your knife, then it'll crack open and it'll be easier to peel that way most of the time. So along with this dinner, I am making garlic knots. So I've got some bread proofing, and that video is going to be separate. But I'll make sure to link it, and I just figured that would be yummy to go along with this soup. So I'm just gonna give this a rough chop and get it in the pot. Don't have to be precise. You can also use a garlic press, but since I've already got a cutting board and a knife out, and I don't really care if everything's precise with my garlic, I'm just giving it a nice rough chop, and I'm gonna use the edge of my knife carefully to pick it up off the side of the cutting board. Let's see. Oh, things are kind of starting to stick, but I'm about to add my beef next, which will have some grease, so I don't want to add any more oil to this. Oh, this is just lovely. I shouldn't have stored it this way. So this was a 3-pound tube of beef, and I used about 1.5 pounds the other day, and I should not have stored it this way, but oh well. So this is 1.5 pounds, which is probably more than I would normally use in a soup, but I just want to go ahead and use this all up. So it's going to be extra beefy today, and I'm going to go throw this away and wash my hands. So to my new cooks or anybody who is squeamish, that was not blood at the bottom of the bag. I forgot exactly what that is. I will insert some information about it.
It's not blood. The red liquid in beef is water and a protein called myoglobin. The iron in the myoglobin turns red when exposed to oxygen. So if you avoid red meat because of the blood, you don't need to. If you avoid red meat for other reasons, those are probably still valid.
During the butchering process, they do get all the blood out of the animal, so that's not blood, but it is something different, and I will research it, and well, I put it in editing for y'all. So I like to cook with wooden flat spoon like this, and so it kind of helps break up the beef. I'm just kind of mixing it in with the vegetables. That was a very lean beef. If you are using a higher fat beef, you might want to cook it separately so you can drain it, or you can cook it in this, and if it seems really greasy, either use a degreaser or just try to drain the vegetables and everything all at once. Okay, so now I got my meat in. I'm gonna go ahead and kick up the heat on this, and then we're going to add some more seasonings. But I'm gonna keep stirring every once in a while to try to break that beef up a little bit more. So again, season in layers. Man, it's the last of my salt. Gotta get some more. I've got some more in the pantry. And then I'm gonna go for kind of like an Italian sort of flair. So I'm gonna add some oregano. You can also just use an Italian blend seasoning, which I don't think I even have. Ooh, I'm gonna add a bay leaf. Bay leaves in soup are always just perfect. So just at the end of the dinner, when it's done cooking, you'll pull that out. Oh look, I do have some Italian blend. So again, You don't have to measure, but here is what I will caution, that you use more seasoning than you think you need, because new cooks, well, in most cases I found, tend to under-season than over-season. I mean, I don't want to say that as a general rule, but, and again, at the end we can taste and add some more if we need to. But when you add it at the beginning here, it has a chance to develop into some really good flavor. I don't want it to stick, so I'm continuing to scrape up from the bottom. You know, even though this is a lean beef, it will kind of put some oils into the skillet and help it from sticking. And you can also help that with the temperature of your skillet. So if it starts to stick, you can adjust your heat. So some other vegetables that might be good in here are green beans, peas, corn. I'm trying to think what else. Got some good ideas? Comment below. What do you put in your just beef and vegetable basic soup? So I'm going to add a can of tomato paste and a can of tomato sauce. You can also use diced tomatoes, just whatever type of canned tomato product you've got going in your pantry. So here's my trick with tomato paste. I actually open it at both ends if I'm going to use the whole can, and then I push it through and then just grab the end here. I'll fish out this metal and clean it and recycle it before I throw it all away, but it's just a nice landing spot there. And I was going to use diced tomatoes, but apparently I don't have any, so we're going to use some tomato sauce. And my beef isn't all the way cooked yet, doesn't matter, it'll cook in the sauce. Now, again, if you have a high fat meat, you want to make sure it cooks all the way so that you can drain it before you add the sauce, otherwise your soup will be very greasy. But like I said, this is a very lean beef, so I'm not super worried about that. Okay, so this is a beef soup, and I'm going to use beef stock. But, you know, I have done this before, and I've gone into the pantry and didn't have beef stock, and I've used chicken, and it's perfectly fine. This is a super forgiving soup. This is not like the soup recipe handed down from great grandma. This is just throw it in a pot, cook it until everything's not raw, flavor it until it's delicious, and serve it with delicious garlic knots. So I went ahead and used all of this because I want leftovers, because I love leftover soup for lunch. Now we get on to the noodles. If you want to make it fancy, you can use some leftover tortellini. Otherwise, elbow noodles, bow tie noodles. You can leave the noodles out because you've got potatoes in here. But this isn't like a ton of tortellini, but it'll just give the soup a little something fancy. So I'm going to put this on low. Now, my tortellini, because I put it in this early in the cooking process, is so going to get overcooked. I totally don't care about that. If you are more particular about your pasta being al dente, you're gonna, and this was frozen tortellini, you're gonna want to put it at the end of the cooking process and follow the directions on like how long it should be boiled, and just treat it like you're boiling it in water, and then it'll be cooked to the right doneness. But I actually like soft noodles, so I didn't even think about that before. I just dumped them in because that's just how I do it. But yeah, if you want your tortellini to not be overcooked, don't add them at this stage. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just cover this. I'm actually going to give it a little taste. My beef isn't all the way cooked, but it's not chicken, so I'm fine. Like, I mean, people eat pink meat. Oh, that's so good. I don't even need to adjust the seasonings. It's perfect. So this is where you'd be like, it needs a little bit of this, or, ooh, if you like spicy things, add some red pepper flakes. At the end, I might add some fresh basil that I've got in my garden, which I can't do in the winter, but for now, this is really good. So I'm gonna put this on, here, let me show you it, actually. Forget that. So you can see there's still some, you know, some of the meat's still raw, but that's why we're gonna let it simmer. So I'm going to just cover this, put it on low, let it simmer for like 15-20 minutes. I am cooking this way early in the day. It's like 2 o'clock. I will turn it off at some point and just let it sit on the stove. And the longer it sits, just the flavors meld and it gets more and more yummy. So yeah, so we'll come back and check on it in a little bit. All right, so Our soup has fully cooked through. It's got a nice thick consistency, which is how I like it. You can see my noodles got nice and plump, which is how I prefer them. We're going to do a couple things. I remembered I had some spinach in my fridge and I need to use it up because I've got a big bag of it. So I like to store it with a paper towel. That helps wick away moisture and it'll keep it fresh longer. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in, spinach wilts down like crazy. So I'm gonna put 2 giant handfuls, spinach everywhere. I'm gonna use the rest of that up in a salad, and this will just wilt down with the heat of the soup. Smells so amazing. I made these delicious garlic knots, so make sure you check out that video to go alongside this soup tonight. So now got some green in there. I was gonna add some basil, but I don't know, I'm not really feeling it now. All right, I'm gonna give this a taste. It's really good. I'm gonna add some more salt. I didn't really put that much at the beginning. And other than that, I would call this soup done, and I'm excited because this is enough for dinner, and then I'm gonna have some for leftovers this week. I wanna say thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button. That really helps me out. And don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.